There comes a time when you have to take a step back and understand that not everything is meant to be under your control. You see, we live in a world that pushes us to chase, to strive, to make things happen no matter the cost. We're told that if we just push a little harder, if we just try a little more, everything will fall into place. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop trying to force things and let them unfold as they're meant to. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard or be determined. No, hard work is essential. It's how you get from dreaming to doing. But there's a difference between putting in the work and forcing something that just isn't meant to be. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You might push and it might even fit for a moment, but it won't last. And the cost of trying to force things can be greater than you realize. You've got to understand that there's a rhythm to life, a natural flow. You feel it when you're in the right moment, when everything clicks, when things just feel right. There's this energy that connects everything, and when you're in sync with that, you feel alive. But when you're fighting against it, when you're pushing too hard, when you're trying to force something to happen that just isn't meant to, that rhythm gets thrown off. Life's natural flow gets disrupted. It's like trying to swim upstream. You might get some momentum for a while, but you'll always end up exhausted, frustrated, and you'll find that you're not really going anywhere. The truth is, we can't control everything. We can't make life happen on our terms, at our speed, even though we sure try. We want things to happen when we want them to happen. We want the job, the promotion, the relationship, the recognition. We want it all. And we want it now. And we work ourselves to the bone, pushing ourselves harder, faster, thinking that if we just keep going, it'll all come together. But sometimes, no matter how much we want it, no matter how hard we push, life's answer is not now or even not ever. And that's hard to accept, especially when you've invested so much of yourself into something, when you've put everything you have into making it work. But you've got to learn to accept it, because once you do, you'll find a freedom like no other. I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not. Letting go of what you thought you wanted, letting go of the idea that you can control everything, can be one of the toughest things you'll ever do. But here's the beauty of it: when you stop forcing things, you make space. You create room for what's truly meant for you. You give yourself the opportunity to see the things that have always been there, but you couldn't see because you were too focused on your own plan. Think about relationships. We've all been there. You meet someone, you connect with them, you fall in love with them, and you think this is it. This is the one. You start planning your future with them, your life together, and you do everything in your power to make it work. You try to change, you try to adapt, you try to be what they need you to be because you want them to stay, because you believe in the potential of what you have. But if their heart isn't in it, if they don't see the same future you see, if they're not fully invested in you, no amount of effort will make them stay. You can't force someone to care for you. You can't make them love you. You can't make them stay if they're ready to leave. And you can't convince someone to give you the respect, the love, the attention that you deserve if they don't feel the same way. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth. We've all been there trying to hold on to something that's slipping away, trying to force something to work because we're scared of losing it. But the more you try to force it, the more you're draining yourself. The more you're giving away pieces of your heart, pieces of your dignity, pieces of your soul to someone who doesn't appreciate it. And what do you end up with when you do that? You end up hurt. You end up disappointed. You end up questioning your worth. You start thinking, maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. But listen, that's not the truth. The truth is, it's not about you not being enough. It's about understanding that sometimes people just aren't meant to be a part of your journey. Sometimes the timing is off. Sometimes their path doesn't align with yours. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're any less than, it just means that you're not on the same frequency. It's like two instruments trying to play the same song, but one is out of tune. No matter how hard you try to make it work, it's never going to sound right. And that's okay. You don't need to force it. The same goes for careers and opportunities. We get it in our heads that once we land that job, that title, that position, everything will be perfect. We think that once we get that one thing, it'll be the answer to all our problems. But sometimes the more we chase that dream, the more we fight for it, the more we realize that we're just banging our heads against a wall. The doors won't open. The opportunities won't present themselves. No matter how much we hustle, how much we push, things just don't seem to fall into place. And that's when it's time to step back. It's time to reassess. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this the path I'm meant to be on? We can't always control the timing of our lives. We can't always dictate how things unfold. But we can choose how we respond. We can choose to stop trying to force things and instead open ourselves up to what's truly meant for us. When we stop fighting so hard for the things that aren't aligned with our purpose, we make space for the things that are. We open our eyes to new possibilities, new opportunities that were always there, waiting for us to notice. Sometimes it's the things we least expect that are the most fulfilling. The job you thought you needed might not be the one that brings you the satisfaction you've been searching for. The relationship you fought for might not be the one that brings you the peace and happiness you deserve. But when you stop forcing it, when you let go of what's not meant to be, you make room for the things that are. You create space for the job, the relationship, the opportunity that truly aligns with who you are, with your true purpose. Let me tell you something, when you stop forcing things, that's when the magic happens. That's when you start living in flow. That's when life starts to unfold in ways you never could have planned or imagined. When you let go of the need to control everything, when you stop fighting for what's not meant to be, you create a life that feels effortless because you're finally in alignment with the rhythm of life. You're no longer swimming upstream, fighting against the current. You're moving with it, allowing life to take you where it's meant to. And I get it. I really do. It's hard to let go of something that feels so right, even when it's not. It's hard to accept that you can't control everything. But once you do, once you truly embrace the idea that some things aren't meant for you, you'll find peace. You'll find freedom. You'll find strength. You'll find the courage to move on, to let go, to redirect your energy to what truly matters. So, if you're fighting something right now, if you're pushing against something that just won't give, maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to take a step back, reevaluate, and ask yourself, is this the path I'm meant to be on? Because when you stop forcing it, when you let go, that's when the doors you've been knocking on start to open. That's when you start walking in your true purpose and everything falls into place. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it to happen. You let life's natural rhythm carry you where you need to be. And that, my friend, is a beautiful thing. And let's talk about timing. We've all been there. We've all had that feeling, wanting something, needing something, thinking we're ready for it. We feel it in our bones, in the core of who we are. You look around and you think, I've done the work, I've put in the time, I'm ready for this. So why isn't it happening? Why isn't it falling into place? You look at other people, and they seem to be getting ahead. They seem to be succeeding. And you start to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why am I still waiting? But what you need to understand is that just because you feel ready doesn't mean the situation is. Just because you think it's time doesn't mean it's the right time. And if you try to force it, you're going to end up with something half-baked. You'll get something that doesn't have the foundation it needs to last. Something that's not ready for the future you're trying to build. Timing is everything. And patience is not just some word we throw around. It's not some abstract concept. It's a necessity. It's a skill that we need to develop if we want to navigate life with grace and wisdom. It's about understanding that sometimes waiting is the best move you can make. And I'm not saying you sit back and do nothing. No, you keep working, you keep preparing, but you also trust that when the time is right, what's meant for you will come. And it will come with ease. It'll fit into your life the way it was always supposed to without you forcing it or manipulating it into place. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. This isn't about giving up. This isn't about saying, well, I'll just wait here and see what happens. That's not it at all. This is about discernment. This is about knowing when to push and when to pause. It's about recognizing when you're putting your energy into something that's not giving anything back, when you're pushing against a door that's not opening, and realizing that maybe it's time to step back and reevaluate. Stepping back is not the same as stepping down. Sometimes stepping back is the bravest thing you can do. It's hard, it's humbling, it's uncomfortable. But it's necessary. You have to trust that in that moment of stillness, in that pause, something is happening. You're gaining clarity. You're strengthening your resolve. And when it's time to step forward again, you'll do so with purpose, with a clearer vision and a deeper sense of knowing. Think of it like a dance. If you've ever watched two people dance when they're truly in sync, you know how beautiful it is. It's effortless. There's a flow, a rhythm that they move to. It's not forced. It's not rushed. It just happens. But if one person tries to take the lead when it's not their turn, if they push when the other's pulling, the dance falls apart. The whole thing goes off course. That's life. Life is a dance, and just like in a dance, you have to know when to lead and when to follow. You have to know when to step forward and when to step back. If you try to force a move when it's not the right time, you're going to stumble. You're going to lose your balance. You're going to create unnecessary friction. And that's what happens when you try to force life. It's not a graceful process. It's messy. It's frustrating. It feels like you're trying to swim through mud. But if you wait for the right moment, if you trust that the right moment will come, you'll find that things just fall into place. It's like you're being carried by the rhythm of life, not fighting against it. You'll find yourself in the right place at the right time, surrounded by the right people, and doing the right things. When the timing is right, what's meant for you will come into your life with ease, and it will fit. It will align. You won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate it. It will just be right. And that's how you know that it's meant for you. That's when you know you're on the right path. Now, let's talk about something that hits close to home for a lot of us: personal growth. You see, we're living in a world where everything is about speed. We want things now. We want results now. We want success now. And we feel this pressure to change, to grow, to be better, faster, stronger. But let me tell you something, growth doesn't work like that. It doesn't happen overnight. And it doesn't happen on anyone else's schedule. It happens on its own time. And if you try to force it, if you try to rush it, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to feel like you're not enough. You're going to feel like you're failing. But the truth is, you're just not ready yet. And that's okay. You don't rush the sunrise, do you? You don't try to push the sun to rise before it's ready. It rises when it's ready. And when it does, it lights up the entire sky. Your growth is no different. You can't rush it. You can't force it. It happens when it happens. And when it does, it's going to light up your entire life. It's going to shine in ways you never expected. But you've got to give it the time it needs. You've got to trust that your journey is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. You've got to be patient with yourself. We live in a society that tells us we need to be something we're not. We get caught up in what everyone else is doing, in what everyone else expects, and we start to feel like we're falling behind. We start to feel like we're not enough. But let me tell you something, don't force yourself to be someone you're not just because you think that's what others want, or because you think you should be further along than you are. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. Your path is your own, and it's going to take the time it's going to take. And that's okay. You don't need to rush it. You don't need to meet standards that aren't yours. You don't need to be someone else's version of success. Because when you try to force yourself to change too fast, when you try to meet other people's expectations, when you try to fit into a mold that wasn't made for you, you're going to feel exhausted. You're going to feel resentful. You're going to feel like you're constantly falling short. And that's not growth. That's pressure. That's stress. Growth is slow. It's deliberate. It's intentional. It's about taking one step at a time. And sometimes that means stepping back for a moment, reassessing, and giving yourself permission to go at your own pace. When you're patient with yourself, when you give yourself the time you need to grow, that's when the magic happens. That's when you begin to see the transformation. That's when you look up one day and realize you've come so far. You've grown in ways you never thought possible. And the best part is, it's all been natural. It's all been on your terms. It's all been at your pace. And when you reach that place, you're not going to look back and wish you'd rushed it. You're not going to regret taking your time. You're going to look back and see that everything happened exactly as it was supposed to. So I need you to understand this timing is everything. And timing isn't something you can control. You can't rush it. You can't push it. All you can do is trust it. Trust the process. Trust the journey. Be patient. And when the timing is right, everything will fall into place. And when it does, it's going to be exactly what you needed, exactly what you've been working for. It will fit into your life without forcing, without struggle. It will just fit. So don't rush, don't force, trust the timing. And know that what's meant for you will never pass you by. Let go of the idea that if you're not forcing things, you're not doing enough. Too many of us walk around with this weight on our shoulders, thinking that we have to be constantly pushing, constantly striving, constantly fighting for what we want. The truth is, that kind of mentality can leave you worn out, frustrated, and lost. You start to believe that if you're not sweating, if you're not struggling, if you're not forcing something into place, then you're not working hard enough. But let me tell you, that's a lie. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is surrender, not in defeat, not in giving up, but in trusting the process. trusting that what's meant for you will find you. When it does, it will come with its challenges, but it won't feel like a constant battle. It won't feel like you're always fighting uphill, never getting a break. When it's right for you, you'll know deep in your spirit. You'll feel it. You'll understand that it's where you're meant to be. And that peace comes from knowing that you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. The problem is we get so caught up in the idea that we have to be in control of everything. We think that we have to make things happen, that we have to push and force and fight for what we want. But when you stop forcing things, you open up space for peace. You stop feeling like you're at war with your own life, like every step is a battle. You stop feeling like you're on the edge of a cliff fighting for balance. Instead, you begin to flow. You start to move with the current, not against it. And in that flow, you find clarity, you find purpose, you find fulfillment. It's like everything starts to make sense. You begin to trust the process, trust the journey. And that trust, that's everything. It's everything, because it means that you believe in yourself, you believe in your worth, you believe that you have everything you need right now to get where you're going. When you let go of forcing things, you also find the strength to walk away from what isn't serving you. You realize that you don't have to settle. You don't have to keep putting energy into situations that drain you, into people who don't see you for who you are, into opportunities that aren't right for you. You learn that walking away is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It's a sign that you have enough respect for yourself to know when something isn't aligned with who you are and where you're going. And when you stop forcing things, you also develop the wisdom to wait. You wait for the things that are truly meant for you, things that align with your vision, your values, your purpose. You realize that you don't have to rush anything, because what's meant for you will find its way to you. And when it does, you'll be ready. You see, you can't force the things that aren't meant to fit. You can't make something work when it's just not in alignment. The universe has a way of guiding us, of leading us to what's right for us. It might not always be what we expect, and it might not come when we want it, but it will come. And when it does, it will be right. It will fit in a way that makes sense, in a way that feels like it was always meant to be. That's why it's so important to know your worth, to trust the timing, and to keep moving forward with faith. Because when you do that, when you stop forcing and start trusting, you create the space for the right opportunities to show up. And when they do, you'll see that life opens up in ways you never imagined. You'll find yourself in places you never thought possible, doing things you never dreamed you'd be doing. But all of it will feel natural. All of it will fit. And you'll look back and see that it wasn't because you forced it. It wasn't because you struggled and fought. It was because you were ready. It was because you let go and you trusted. And because you trusted, the universe responded. Now, let me tell you something about honoring your process. Everyone has their own journey. We all have our own timing. We all have our own path. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you can stop comparing yourself to others. Stop measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. Stop thinking that just because someone else is ahead of you, you should be too. No. You have to honor your own process, your own pace, your own timing. That doesn't mean you're not going to challenge yourself. It doesn't mean you don't set high standards. It just means you're not trying to force things into place before it's time. Real transformation doesn't come from rushing. It doesn't come from forcing. It comes from consistency. It comes from faith. It comes from showing up Day after day, trusting that the work you're doing is taking you somewhere. It comes from nurturing the seed and letting it grow at its own pace, not from constantly digging it up to see if it's sprouted. Growth is slow, it's steady, it's deliberate, and it takes time. Let me tell you something about faith. Faith is not just about believing in something when everything is going your way. Faith is about believing in something when everything feels like it's falling apart. Faith is about trusting that things will come together even when you can't see it. Faith is when you're in the middle of the storm, when nothing seems to be going right, and you still trust that the universe is working behind the scenes. You still believe that there's something better coming your way. That's real faith. Faith is not about having all the answers. It's about trusting that you don't need to know everything right now. That you don't need to have all the pieces. When you stop forcing things, you make room for faith to work. You let go of the need to control every outcome. You release the need to make everything happen on your own terms. And when you do that, you tell the universe, I trust. I trust that what's meant for me will come to me. And if it's not for me, I'm okay with that too. That's the power of surrender. That's the power of trust. It's not about giving up. It's about letting go of the need to force things into place. It's about knowing that what's meant for you will find you, and when it does, you'll be ready. You'll be strong enough to handle it. You'll be wise enough to appreciate it. And it will come with ease, not struggle. It will come with flow, not force. It will be a natural part of your journey. So stop forcing things. Stop trying to make things fit that aren't meant to fit. Trust the process. Honor your timing. And know that what's meant for you is already on its way. You don't have to force it. You don't have to rush it. Just let it come when it's ready. And when it does, it will be right. It will be worth the wait. It's easy to get caught up in the big moments, the life-changing events, and think that's where all the pressure is. But you know what? It's not always about those major milestones. It's in the everyday things that we often find ourselves forcing conversations that don't seem to flow right, friendships that feel like we're constantly dragging people along, trying to make them understand us when they're not ready or even willing to. It's those little moments where we push too hard, where we feel like if we don't make something happen right now, it'll slip away forever. But let me tell you this, trying to force things like that only leads to frustration. Not everything and not everyone is meant to be in your life forever. Some people are only meant to be chapters in your book. And that's okay. You can't force them to stay if their part in your story is done. When you try, you're only holding yourself back from what's coming next. You're preventing yourself from moving forward to the next chapter that's waiting for you. And when that happens, you'll find that you're stuck in a place that doesn't serve you anymore, with people who can't understand you, simply because you're trying to hold on to something that's already past its time. And you know what else? There's a real peace that comes with accepting that. When you stop trying to make everything go exactly the way you envisioned it, you begin to see things differently. You open your eyes to the small signs, the little opportunities, the whispers from the universe that are guiding you. When you're so focused on your own plan, you miss out on things that could be even better than what you were striving for in the first place. You start to realize that life isn't about controlling every move. It's about learning how to navigate it, how to ride the waves when they come, and rest when the waters are calm. When you stop fighting against the current, life becomes a little less like a battle and more like a journey. And that's when the real peace comes in, when you stop forcing everything and start allowing it to flow. Now, this way of thinking requires something most people struggle with, and that's humility. It's not about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less. It's about realizing that you don't have all the answers. You're not the one in control of everything, and that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay, it's essential. You see, humility is knowing that what you thought was the right path for you might not be the best one after all. It's the ability to step back and say, maybe I don't have all the answers. Maybe the plan I had wasn't the one I was supposed to follow, and that takes strength. Strength to recognize that sometimes what's best for you isn't what you thought you wanted in the first place. Humility isn't weakness. It's the strength to let go when you realize something isn't serving your higher purpose. And that's where real growth happens. There's also something we can't overlook when we talk about letting go of control, and that's gratitude. When you're constantly pushing for things to happen on your terms, it's easy to forget what's already in front of you. But when you stop trying to force things, you make room to appreciate what you already have. You start to see the blessings in your life that were always there, waiting for you to notice them. You stop focusing on what's missing and start recognizing what's abundant. And the power of gratitude is incredible because it shifts your focus. Instead of feeling like you're always lacking something, you start seeing the fullness of what you've already been given. And when you approach life from that place, when you focus on gratitude, you don't have to push so hard to attract what you need. When you're aligned with who you are, when you're grateful for what's already in your life, the right people, the right opportunities, the right circumstances, they come. You don't have to chase them down. They'll find you because you're operating from a place of authenticity. The right things come into your life when you stop fighting tooth and nail for them. Think about the energy shift that happens when you stop trying to control everything. When you're always forcing, when you're constantly feeling like you have to make everything happen, that's exhausting. It wears you down. It stresses you out. It's a never-ending battle that leaves you disappointed when things don't go your way. But when you let go, when you stop forcing outcomes, you become more adaptable. You start to develop a resilience that comes from trusting the process. You begin to understand that not every road is going to lead to where you thought it would. And that's okay. When you let go of control, you don't feel the need to be attached to every outcome. Instead, you become open to whatever comes, and you know that you'll be okay no matter what happens. It's not about things always going your way, but about knowing you can handle whatever comes your way, because you've built a foundation of trust and faith. I want you to think about that resilience built from trust, not from forcing things to work out, but from surrendering to the process. Knowing that even when things don't go according to plan, you're still moving forward. You might not always see the way forward clearly, but you can trust that it's there. And that's what will keep you going. It's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up. And you don't get up because you're forcing yourself to. You get up because you trust that there's something better ahead. You trust that every setback is just setting you up for a comeback. When you stop fighting against the flow, you become resilient. You become someone who can handle life's challenges, not by overpowering them, but by accepting them, learning from them, and moving forward with a stronger foundation. I want you to understand that this isn't about giving up. It's not about letting life happen to you. It's about finding peace in the midst of the storm. It's about trusting that life doesn't have to be a constant struggle. Yes, there will be hard times. There will be challenges, but you don't have to force your way through them. You just have to trust that everything happens in its own time. Sometimes you'll look back and realize that what you thought you wanted was nothing compared to what you needed. And that's the beauty of letting go. When you stop forcing things, you allow yourself to be open to the bigger picture. You allow yourself to be open to something greater than you could have ever planned. And so when you stop forcing things, you stop running on empty. You stop draining your energy on things that aren't meant for you. And in doing so, you start to attract the things that are truly meant for you. You stop chasing, you stop struggling, and you begin to align with the natural flow of life. And that's when things start to happen. Not because you forced them, but because you trusted the process. Because you let go of the need to control everything and allowed yourself to be guided to where you were truly meant to go. And when that happens, you realize that everything you've been searching for was already within you all along. And here's the thing, when you stop forcing, you become more present. You're not lost in the what ifs or the if onlys. You're here now, living fully in each moment. You can enjoy life as it comes without always looking ahead to the next milestone, the next goal, the next big thing. You learn to appreciate the quiet moments, the pauses between the action. And sometimes that's where life's true beauty lies, in the spaces where you're just being, not doing. So don't be afraid to take your hands off the wheel for a moment and see where life takes you. Don't be afraid to step back and let things unfold without your constant push and pull. Trust that the universe, God, or whatever higher power you believe in knows what's meant for you better than you do. When you let go of the need to force, you make room for true miracles to happen. In the end, life isn't about how many battles you won by sheer force of will. It's about the peace you find in knowing when to push and when to let go. It's about finding that delicate balance between effort and acceptance, between striving and being still. And when you find that balance, you realize that what's truly meant for you won't require you to force it. It will come, not because you demanded it, but because you created the space for it to arrive. Let go of what you think life should be, and trust in what life can be when you allow it to unfold naturally. Because when you stop forcing things, that's when life surprises you in the best possible ways.